Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to S is for Sickle Cell Disease, which will explore the impact of sickle cell disease on persons' day-to-day life. It will also look at the myths and the misconceptions that surround sickle cell disease and some psychosocial challenges faced by people living with sickle cell disease. This webinar is organized jointly by the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease Organizations, GASDO, and Novartis, in order to spread the awareness of sickle cell disease in Sub-Saharan Africa. GASDO is a global organization representing people living with sickle cell disease. Novartis is a pharmaceutical company dedicated to improving the lives of people living with sickle cell disease. I am Mary Kwiampoma, the current CEO of GASDO, and I am your moderator for today's session. To have this discussion with me, we have two esteemed personalities. We have Arafa Salim, who is the founder of Sickle Cell Disease Patients Organization in Tanzania. Then we have Dr. Fred Okinye, a lecturer, College of Health Sciences, University of Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you all for making time to participate in this educative and insightful webinar. We are really grateful to have you here today. Kindly post your questions in the live question and answer session under the live stream, but kindly log into Facebook to be able to do so, please.
Welcome to our S-Word series, where we'll be exploring a number of important topics that relate to sickle cell disease in Sub-Saharan Africa. The webinars will bring together doctors and patients to truly unpick sickle cell disease from all angles. My name is Resi Muchilwa. I'm the head of Global Health Sub-Saharan Africa division within Novartis, a global healthcare company dedicated to making a difference in sickle cell disease. I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Fred Okinye, Arafa Salim Said, and Mary Akwa Ampoma. Our first topic is S is for sickle cell, and to help us kick off this discussion is Dr. Okinye.
I'm Dr. Frederick Okinye, a lecturer at the University of Nairobi, Department of Hematology. Sickle cell disease is an inherited disorder. That means that the proteins that are responsible for this disease are passed from our parents to the children, just like any other traits like the color of your hair or the shape of your nose is passed from your parents. It is a disease which is quite common in Africa, and it mainly runs from parents and passed to the children, and it's kind of coincides with areas where we have high burden of malaria. It is not caused by bad luck or punishment or from witchcraft. It is not a bad omen, and people who have sickle cell disease still live for more than 20 years. It is not cured by witch doctors or priests. It is not cured by polygamy or divorce. And for those who receive frequent blood transfusion, it does not change personality. So we have to be very, very clear on the issues that have been caused by myths. Sickle cell is an inherited disease in Africa, and it has not been given much attention. About 400,000 children born with sickle cell disease each year are in Africa. 85,000 are found in Nigeria, 40,000 in Republic of Congo, and the rest in Africa. And children with sickle cell disease are more susceptible to infections like pneumonia and malaria, which is responsible to 5 to 16% of deaths in the children under 5 years. And adding the burden of sickle cell disease tends to make them have more complications. And if you see that relationship, the areas which are shaded red shows the sickle cell disease in parts of Africa and the world, and the ones which are shaded in green shows actually the distributing pattern in other parts of with malaria. So that relationship mirrors each other, and they work hand in hand because of the issues of mutations and associated malaria infections. So the complications of sickle cell disease cannot just be put in numbers, but we can really look at them in terms of social, economic, and psychological impact. If you look at a child and the parents, the child have got poor progression in their careers. Most of the time they spend their income in taking care of their children with sickle cell, and their quality of life is reduced. They cannot perform other activities like other people because of the frequent pain, visiting the hospitals. And when they are on pain medications, they get to tend side effects like mainly dependence, which I'll call especially related to the opioids. And those who get other drugs also get chronic stomach pains, gastric ulcerations, and sometimes they complicate with hepatitis bleeding. There's also element of mental complications which range from anxiety to depression. A child who has sickle cell attending school does not perform well because most of the time they have pain, they have headache, and this even interferes with their speed of doing homework and exams. And basically the family spends more of their resources in savings and taking care of the sick members in the hospital. So the complications of sickle cell disease mostly arise from the events that are related to the abnormal blood cells occluding the vessel. Normal blood cells are discoid in shape, they're round and they're able to pass through the blood vessels with much ease. But if someone has sickle cell disease, the shape of the blood cells is normally sickle or banana shape. But now, the moment they get complications, they tend to maintain that hard shape of the sickle or banana. So this makes them not easy to pass smoothly through the vessels, as you can see there. So when you look at the factors that are responsible for the development of the disease, we can call them internal. That is things which you are born with and we cannot change. Genetics is one of them. And as I've said, it is abnormal hemoglobin S, which is passed from parents to the children. Blood vessels and the cells. Now, we have certain blood cells in the body which help fight infections. Apparently, this tends to be more increased in people with sickle cell. So during such processes, when the blood vessels are occluded, there's a lot of pain and lots of processes taking place. We have breakdown of the blood vessels in that place. And when this happens, there's a lot of what we call end organ damage. Looking at it from the other side again, the external factors tend to precipitate, they tend to increase the chances of having these complications. And that basically deals with malaria infections, infections from other diseases, bacteria that cause dehydration, fever, and therefore those make someone more and more getting more disease frequently and more complicated. We also need to look at the geographical areas like the altitude, and in the tropics where it's normally very hot, they tend to get more complications. That people take and their lifestyles, their meals, all this put together determines how severe someone gets a complicated disease. The common presenting symptoms in patients with sickle cell is normally anemia, painful swelling of hands and feet, sickle cell crisis, and of course, yellowness of the eyes. All these represent certain processes that take place in the body that leads to all this, and therefore anemia is as a result of the breakdown of red blood cells, and they'll present with irritability, tiredness. Most of the time they don't perform many of activities. Painful swelling of the hands and the feet is quite common at the age of 6 months, and this is the commonest early presentations with anemia. And in some circumstances, they just present with the crisis, especially if they had bacterial infections or other conditions. And they'll therefore present to the hospital with terrible pain, many severe back pain, pain of the lower limbs, chest, abdomen. It's normally tend to be more generalized. And more so, jaundice, that is yellowness of the eyes, is quite a common sign that you notice in these patients. So when all these things happen, we get chronic complications, and we can divide them into acute and chronic. And acute are the ones which take a short time, like the painful crisis, yellowness of the eyes, we call it hemolytic crisis, and chronic complications that eventually affect the blood vessels. And you know, blood vessels are everywhere in parts of your body and very important organs like the brain, where you can get stroke, you can get retinopathy that affects your eyes, you can get a vascular necrosis that affects some blood vessels in the bone, and even your kidney may end up with end organ damage. And not to forget to mention the heart, and actually the lungs. So everyone with complications of sickle cell anemia tend to have even iron overload because of the frequent blood transfusion that these patients get. And therefore, for a long time, our governments have tried to kind of give support to the patients. And what we get these days in most government hospitals have got sickle cell hematology clinics, where we see all these patients every week. That is especially the tertiary level. And also in the lower levels, we have clinical services, which are offered by other doctors, and where they cannot manage, they have a venue for referral here and other forums. And we have Sickle Cell Federation of Kenya, where we have members logging in and giving information to each other. And this has actually helped support each other and adhere to the treatment protocols. Psychosocial counseling is also available in other areas. And therefore, the common medical treatments that we give these patients with sickle cell include top-up transfusion, especially when they have anemia, giving them hydroxyurea, which is actually the mainstay of supporting patients with sickle cell disease. And on top of that, we give antimalarial drug, folic acid, prophylactic antibiotics, and vaccinations to prevent the infections. And therefore, this does not mean that all has been done, but there are lots of areas where we still need to improve the support for people with sickle cell disease. We need political support to preach and inform the citizens that sickle cell disease is an inherited disease, especially in the areas where it is endemic, so that people can take responsibilities by encouraging early screening during antenatal period and even during the newborn period, so that parents are aware of this condition and can take responsibility as early as possible. We need drugs to be available. And when I say drugs, I mean folic acid. We need the hydroxyurea available in most of our hospitals. We need vaccines to support and antibiotics. And more so, we need more health education to destigmatize the disease and also have more of sending the health workers, deploying them to areas so that they can give support at the basic grassroots level. And in this, we will be able to give caregiver support, give community support, support the organizations, so that the taking care of people with sickle cell disease is given a more holistic approach.
Many thanks for that introduction. We will now enter the participation of the live stream. Dr. Kinyi, how has our knowledge of sickle cell disease advanced over the last 10 years? And how has this impacted the management of sickle cell disease?
It has improved tremendously because there's a lot of research going on. There are seminars, there's a lot of exposure, and this has helped us know how it causes the disease, how it arises, how it affects the patient, and also knowing the management options which are available. Apparently, we are using hydroxyurea as the mainstay of managing patients with sickle cell disease. We are also giving them antibiotics and folic acid, and this enables us to encourage them during the clinic visits so that they adhere to our treatment protocols and advice. And more so, me coming from a teaching institution, it is a must know for our students that you must be able to diagnose and manage patients for sickle cell disease. So generally, in terms of knowing how the disease comes about and its management, we are training and mentoring more people, and therefore the knowledge in individuals and even in patients is increasing.
Misinformation about sickle cell is still a huge challenge. Growing up, sickle cell was associated with witchcraft. Arafa, as a person living with sickle cell disease, what myths or misconceptions about sickle cell disease have you experienced? And what can we all do to help people living with sickle cell disease?
Myths and misconceptions that I have experienced is, firstly, is the origin of sickle cell. Many people didn't know how do you inherit this disease, first. And secondly, people thought it's a disease that was witchcrafted. So it's something that they were trying to take you to witchcraft doctors, make influence your parents that this is something, if she goes to a witchcraft, she'll be fine. It's just something that she was thrown to. It's not something that was born. So we didn't have, people didn't understand and still don't understand about it. But also when it came to going to school, many people didn't understand that people living with sickle cell can go to school and they should achieve their goals. But also when growing up, many people would think that a person living with sickle cell is very fragile. They shouldn't do any hard works. They shouldn't do anything. They should just sit and wait for their day to die, because many people believe that people living with sickle cell will die when they reach 18. And if they pass 18, then they'll be cured from this disease. But many people would say that, and I experienced these things, that you cannot get married, you won't, because you're not allowed to have kids. And that is very not true, because I am a mother now. And these are the misconceptions about sickle cell that I have experienced a lot. And people are still experiencing them. But also when coming to say that I graduated and I want to start work, and there will be that, who will give you work, because today you got to work and tomorrow you'll be missing work. And I experienced a lot of this. That's why I was like, I really think I need to be an advocate myself and stand up for my rights and my other warriors. We all needed to speak more about it, and so that now I'm a good advocate for people living with sickle cell. And what should be done to help people living with sickle cell is awareness, advocating, a lot of awareness. There's nothing more that we can do to help ourselves without being aware of the disease itself first, and that we have the rights to do everything that we wish to do, because we are human beings just like others. We are just special living with the sickle cell disease, and we are warriors.
Thank you, Rafa, for sharing your story, and your reflection is a great sequel for the patient advocacy point of view. Mary, what are some of the ongoing efforts from GASDO and other community leaders to disperse some of the myths and perceptions around sickle cell disease in the region?
When it comes to people living with sickle cell disease, there are a lot of myths and misconceptions with regards to sickle cell disease. Most of them surround the area of the pathophysiology of sickle cell disease, so the causes of sickle cell disease, and also some of the impact of sickle cell disease on the individual. So we all know that when it comes to education, it is the surest way of disabusing some of these myths and misconceptions in sickle cell disease. So one of the key priorities of the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease Organization and its member support groups is to give more of education. So what we do is, for instance, GASDO has monthly webinars that we educate the community about sickle cell disease. So in terms of its pathophysiology, in terms of its anything that comes up like the vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, in terms of quality of life, how to improve quality of life in terms of drugs in sickle cell disease, in terms of clinical trials, because it is through education that these myths and misconceptions surrounding sickle cell disease can be debunked, so that people will be able to live a good quality life, because education as it is helps to improve the awareness of the condition with regards to the people living with sickle cell disease, and also improve adherence in terms of medication and also mental health. which impacts on the individual? Thank you. Dr. Okinyi, you have heard our perceptions about sickle cell. Let's delve deep on the main signs and symptoms you see most commonly in your patients where you suspect sickle cell disease.
The presentations differ and may depend mainly with age. Early enough, that is around 6 months, they normally present with pain on their hands and on the back, and basically I'll call it painful crisis. And it is normally limited to the hands, which are swollen. And when you notice this, you normally think of, we normally think of other differentials like infections, arthritis. But when you look at basically the eyes, you'll realize that this child has got some level of jaundice. And normally when we do the blood test, that is full hemogram, it confirms that these children have got low HB. So basically anemia, painful crisis, and yellowness of the eyes are the commonest symptoms that we notice. But given that there are also other conditions that present almost similarly, we are very keen on the demographic information of the patients because we know where most of these patients come from. So that is normally very key. So irrespective of other things, demographic information, the clinical signs, especially in our setup, is very, very important so that it prompts us to make early diagnosis of the disease. So painful crisis is the most frequent symptom. And then as they grow, then pain is almost the commonest presentation that we get in these patients.
In September, we had a poll to understand the different aspects of life that are most impacted by sickle cell disease. Arafa, back to you. Which of the sickle cell disease manifestations has impacted you the most? And how has sickle cell disease impacted your life in general?
This is how sickle cell disease impacted me physically and emotionally. Firstly, growing up, I was really tiny, very small, very petite, and people would say, you see, a person living with sickle cell is very weak, very small. They don't grow to be big, and it's something that really hurt my. It was really impacting me, like with my self-esteem. Like I would feel so bad going out because people would think I'm going to die, or like they would say like, when you walk, you look like you're broken down because you're very tiny, and it's really bad. And most of the time, because when we living with sickle cell, most of the time we have a yellowish in our eyes, and people would make fun out of it and like say, oh, you're carrying a gene in yourself or something. So these are the things that really, really impacts me through physical and emotional well-being, but also other aspects of life, such as education, work, or other daily activities that really, really is impacting us. Is when you go to school and you have the yellowish in your eyes, and everybody will be stigmatizing you, like, oh, you're carrying a gene. It's not normal. Or why would you be yellowish? And it's really, I would stand up for myself and talk about it like, I'm living with sickle cell. It's not something that anything bad or anything, but you know how school kids are. They don't want to hear that. So, but when it comes to work, we don't have the rights for the HRS. Let's talk about the HRS. Or they don't have the rights for people living with sickle cell to work there. Like they don't acknowledge that these people are human beings also. They go to school because they need to work. They need to have a daily life. But most of the first thing you talk about when you say I'm a person living with sickle cell, they'll say, I'll call you back. And they never get back to you because they think you're weak, you won't be able to do anything. But the truth is we are hardworking. We do it heartedly. And when we are well, we do it the best way. But when we are not well, that's when we need a rest. And but when we're back, everything gets online. Daily activities as a mother, it's a hassle a little bit, but most of the time you'll be asked, do you think you can do it? You know, like you have a kid, you have a husband. Is this normal? Do you do it? How do you do it? Are you sure? Are you not going to be sick? You know, it's sometimes taking care of others brings a lot of peace in my mind. I love doing what I do for my family, but also for the community out there. So I can do it all. I'm only not well when I'm not well, but when I'm well, I do everything perfectly, and I love doing what I do. But in a relationship, how has it impacted me is when, you know, like being a teenager already, and it's time for dating. And obviously, as any other person, I had a boyfriend. And firstly, I was worried to talk about my genotype. But then he came to realize, because I was already doing advocacy for people living with sickle cell. So I was like, are we just dating? Oh, you thinking we can get married? And he was like, no married here. I'm not ready to have a person living with sickle cell as a wife, because I don't believe that we are going to have a future, because you people will die, or if you don't die, you'll be in hospital all the time. So these are things that really impact us, and people should understand that as a person living with sickle cell, I have all the rights, and when I love deeply, and I really wish that people really understand. A person living with sickle cell is a human being, has all the rights to work, to get married, to go to school, and do all that a human being has to do. And also, we can reach our goals by making sure we are aware of living with sickle cell. How do we do it? What should we do? And life is normal.
Dr. Kenyi, I'm keen to know to what extent your expectations for sickle cell disease management are aligned with your patients, and what can be done differently, either from a patient or healthcare professional standpoint, to improve sickle cell disease care.
Any disease must have a standard way of management from the basic level, community, to highest level, that is tertiary, where we can do the most extensive kind of treatments, or what I'll call innovative. Now, for sickle cell, we've developed treatment guidelines that incorporates the use of the common and basic drugs, the antibiotics, the folic acid, those that really support that I've mentioned, like even hydroxyurea. And in our guidelines, we want us to move further to even carry out exchange transfusion using the apheresis method. And to me, we expect to move from what we've been doing. You know, basically, we've just been giving patients drugs, giving them supportive information, how to adhere to their treatment protocols, when they should attend clinic, how to live safely so that they do not kind of suffer from get disease complication. That is by at least making sure that common diseases are managed. However, with our current guidelines, most of our centers do not provide apheresis. So it is my hope that in the future, apheresis machines will be available in the hospitals, and there are very good advantages of using the apheresis. It limits on repeated transfusions, and that cause iron overload. And to me, this will be one of the ways of reducing patient stay within the hospital, because when you do apheresis, you basically limit the cost of treatment, you limit the number of repeated transfusions, and of course, in essence, you reduce the percentage of abnormal red cells in the body, which will eventually just cause iron overload. So to me, those are some of the things that I will see moving forward, and I hope our institutions and our countries that have developed guidelines should try as much as possible to enforce, so that the treatment and care of sickle cell patients is standard across the regions, so that even if you refer a patient, basically they'll expect the best care that can be offered within that region.
In your conversations with persons living with sickle cell disease and their caregivers, what are the expectations and what more can we do?
When it comes to people living with sickle cell disease in our region, one of the challenges is with barriers to sickle cell disease management, or care. So the expectation is that there will be national newborn screening programs in every region. So in terms of every country should have its own national sickle cell newborn screening, such that no matter where you are born, whether you are born in a village, whether you are born in a town or in a city, you can be diagnosed early if you have sickle cell disease, and management or treatment can start early to reduce mortality. Then secondly, with regards to sickle cell clinics, they are also expecting that there will be a national sickle cell clinic programs, such that no matter where you are living, you can have access to sickle cell treatment, appropriate treatment. Then also with regards to drugs or therapies in sickle cell disease, we have hydroxyurea, which has been long-standing, but now we have emerging new innovative or novel therapies coming in. Their expectation is that even with hydroxyurea, it will be accessible and also affordable. Then also these new therapies, they also have access to it. Then one of their concerns is also that there will be more clinical trials, which they would participate in, such that we'll have new therapies coming in, so that they will have the luxury to choose or to make informed decision when it comes to management of the condition. Then also there will be more education, because when it comes to sickle cell disease, no matter where you are living, globally, there are issues of stigma, which most of them stems from this negative perceptions and myths about sickle cell disease. So there will be more education in the community, such that it will reduce, if not stop, stigmatization in sickle cell disease. Arafa, reflecting on your journey as a person living with sickle cell disease, what challenges do you face in attending clinics or assessing treatment options, or what do you think can be done differently?
As a person living with sickle cell disease, challenges that I face, or attending clinics, accessing treatment. Firstly, as a person living with sickle cell, I would say I am living in a town where I can go to many hospitals with where I can get clinics for sickle cell, but we still have a challenge for other worries out there, like who are in the rural areas. they cannot access the clinics like I can. Like I have different hospitals in town where I can access clinic, but my fellow warriors can't. So I think that's one of the challenges, because we haven't reached very far for the clinics. But when it comes to treatment or care, I myself, I have been on a treatment or a therapy that has been helping me so much for over 10 years and plus, and I haven't been on a hospital bed for 6 years continuously with no blood transfusions. So I really wish that this therapy can reach many warriors like myself, because we all know it's a life. It's a life savior. When I talk about life savior, it is, because me before this therapy, I had a lot of hospitalizations, a lot of blood transfusions. Like, my life was miserable, but since I started the therapy, I have seen it. Like, it's a life saving, and we all know it. We all know that it is a life saving, but it's really bad that it's not widely available to everyone. First, it's a bit expensive, but also, as we said, we don't have clinics all over Tanzania. So it's something that not many would know about it, but I really wish if it can be widely available for everybody to access it. And things that can be done differently is first, as I always say, it's awareness, 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 but also availability of clinics around Tanzania, but also availability of the therapies that are around the world. We know the world is going very fast, but the little that we can get in Africa, I think we would appreciate. And first of all, I would really appreciate if we can think about having these therapies around us, and everybody can benefit from it and see the life changing through us. And yes, this is my wish. I really wish that everybody would look just like me, a little bit chubby, healthier, happier, and no pain.
Dr. Kinyi, what support networks, if any, do you recommend to your patients and caregivers?
The patients' networks have been the best advocacy groups I've ever seen in dealing with sickle cell. And in Kenya, we have Kenya Sickle Cell Federation, which is a conglomeration umbrella body of all other sickle cell groups. And through this forum and the networks using social media, we've been able to reach to sickle cell patients all over the country. We also use WhatsApp groups. We've also incorporated doctors. And I find this is the most powerful tool of networking in the country, so that even if patients have problems, they can actually tell us where they are admitted. And through this, we can link them with clinicians in those regions. And I found this to be useful because in the past, patients did not know which doctor to call, which one they can get to. And now that the country is zoned into different regions with strong support patient network groups, it has really helped us come together and advocate so that they give each other courage, they educate each other, and even if one of them is bereaved, they kind of give hope to each other. And sometimes when I look at this, I find this to be a very strong, powerful tool, which I will encourage. And we're encouraging them to recruit their families, their relatives, so that this becomes a community kind of support group. And more so, we are linking with other people with other countries like neighboring Tanzania. We have some of them who occasionally share with us information. And I think this is the way to go.
Thank you, Dr. Okinyi. Arafa, could you please tell us about some things you can do in your everyday life to help manage your sickle cell disease?
As a person living with sickle cell, I know there's a lot of things that I need to be doing to make sure that I keep healthy, I keep well, and that I can do on my daily basis. First of all, I rest a lot. But secondly, I do exercise. I exercise at least 30 minutes a day, but also I do my best to eat healthy, make sure I have my balanced diet, but also staying positive. We need to be positive 24/7. I might be living with sickle cell, but sickle cell doesn't have me. Yeah, I can work on it. I know my triggers. I know when I need to drink a lot of water, when I need to rest. These are things that all warriors need to work on and know their triggers, know what to be done or how to do it, and staying positive, as I said. It's a mother. I really need to be active for my very active boy. So I can say he keeps me busy. He keeps me busy, and it's something that I love doing, taking care of others. So as I said, we need to be positive, eat healthy, do a little bit of exercise, understand your body. We need to understand our bodies. What does my body need? Now I need to rest, then rest, don't force it. Yeah, but also live, love, and laugh. Enjoy life.
Mary, what support and resources are available either through GASDO or other organizations a person living with sickle cell disease can have access to, and where can this be found?
Okay, as we all know, information in terms of education of sickle cell disease is key to the community. And because of that, GASDO and its member organizations do a lot of this education in sickle cell disease. So if you want to have access to sickle cell information, you can go on GASDO's website, on our social media platforms, and also no matter where you are living, if there is a member, a sickle cell support group that is a member of GASDO, if you go on their website, you will have a lot of information about sickle cell disease. So you have generally information about sickle cell disease. You also have information about where clinical trials are being done, so that if you want to participate, you will know where and when to participate. Then also, when it comes to newborn screening, because we know that newborn screening is key to the quality of life of people living with sickle cell disease, GASDO is embarking on newborn screening in Africa. You can also go on our website. We will put it there very soon. So you can go on our website and know where and when, so that you can also know where we are having these newborn screening, which can help improve the quality of life of people living with sickle cell disease.
Thank you everyone for that great discussion. We had some fascinating interactions and responses there, and hopefully these are helpful for you, the audience. We'll now move into the next part of our live stream, where we'll answer some of the questions we have received today. Thank you.
We want to thank you all for making time to participate and respond in the poll sent out a few weeks ago, which highlighted and informed us about the lack of education in sickle cell disease in our region. We are grateful for your comments and suggestions. So we are now going to start with the questions and answers. Welcome to this session. Our first question goes to Dr. Ikinyi. Can you please explain what sickle cell is and what impact it has on our body or health?
So if I got the question right, they're asking what is sickle cell disease and what impact it has in our body and health. Is that right?
Yes, please. Briefly, yes, please.
Yes, sickle cell disease is an inherited disorder. That means it is passed from our parents to the offsprings. And just like any other trait that you have, like the color of your hair, your nails, it is just inherited. That is one. So if you have the impact, we don't talk about the impacts it has on our body. It is systemic. That means that being a disease arising from the blood, and the blood flows within the vessels, and the vessels are distributed all over, like from your brain, your heart, your bones, everywhere. Talk of any other organ in the body. It basically causes them to have occlusions. And therefore, these complications can be divided into acute, that is ones which happen within the shortest time, like within a week, or chronic, that go over months and years. So when you talk of acute complications are the painful crisis, which is mostly common. Secondly, we have what we call hemolytic crisis, where the red blood cells break down so severely that you end up with yellowness of the eyes and sometimes can cause kidney complications. The third one is what we call sequestration crisis, where your blood just pull in an organ called in the spleen, and therefore you are anemic and you need to be transfused many, many times for you to survive. And then the common one, again, is vaso-occlusive crisis. So vaso-occlusive crisis and painful crisis are kind of intertwined. That is, they always occur at the same time. In vaso-occlusion, first of all, the red blood cells, which are supposed to have the discoid shape, or if you are born in the early, you could remember that saucer, the nice thing that used to use for putting tea. So that is how it's supposed to look like, malleable and can easily be twisted to pass through the vessels. But now when it turns the shape of a banana, it occludes the vessels, that causes pain. And once the blood vessels are occluded, there's what we call positive feedback mechanism, so that the pain which is there itself is going to cause more and more complications, reducing the blood vessel supply to the other organs of the body. The cells begin to suffer, some of them now release things which cause a lot of pain. And that's why we always prefer to take patients with sickle cell crisis to the hospital so that they can get a rehydration with normal saline, which makes the blood less thin and therefore makes them easy to pass through those vessels. Then chronic complications also vary, and there are quite a lot of them. You have necrosis of the head of femur, and you may need a transplant. That's the commonest. You need leg ulcers, which can be very, very difficult to treat. And I saw someone asking about that. Treatment of leg ulcers just requires cleaning the wounds, keeping good hygiene, and more so if your doctor says that, please, you need to be admitted. We treat it by hypertransfusion. That means that, you see, for any wound to heal in your body, you must have proper blood supply to that region. And therefore, if the blood supply is not adequate, you have an HB of 7, hemoglobin level 7, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to get healing. So we recommend that you get admitted and we transfuse you, and please maintain a hemoglobin level around 9. And that will help with healing. So chronic complications, more hemolysis, you get end organ damage, you can get something called cholelithiasis, where you develop stones, bladder stones, especially in your gallbladder, and that can cause even a lot of pain. And so chronic complications are many, there are many of them. You can get what we call retinopathy, because these blood vessels supply your eye eventually begins to have problems of seeing. Then pulmonary hypertension, because of the frequent hemolysis of blood, it affects the blood pressures that pass through your lungs. Therefore, you actually end up with heart failure in the end. Then coming to acute, which actually are more emergent and gives us headaches, I'll talk of painful crisis, acute chest syndrome. Acute chest syndrome is actually very, very bad, because this is what kills most of our patients. And even sometimes as we try to really check for the investigations and we really don't find much in. Small boys who are very young get what we call priapism. Priapism is a situation where the penis gets to get an erection, and it is very, very painful, especially in men. And the best way to treat this is to take them to hospital, hypertransfuse, and if you have capabilities of doing what we call red cell exchange or apheresis, you get to do that. And the management of these systems are more of like multi-systematic, multidisciplinary. You may even need a neurosurgeon, someone that deals with the genital surgery, to come help you at least manage such children. So basically, as brief as I can try to be, those are the commonest complications that I can mention. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It looks as if, apart from the physical impact on the body, as we have already discussed, because of my field, mental health issue is also huge when it comes to the impact, because if people living with sickle cell disease are not getting the kind of therapy, they are not getting the kind of support, it is impacting on their finances, then it can lead to mental health issues like depression. And sometimes because of the frequent crisis that we know of, it can also lead to anxiety disorders. So apart from the physical that you've mentioned, the mental health issues also come broadly if we have to discuss sickle cell disease. Thank you so much. The next question is, how can we partner with organizations that assist with sickle cell patients so that the patient could benefit from material aids like drugs and others? I think I would take that particular one. In terms of the first part, how can we partner with organizations that assist with sickle cell patients? Yes, there are a lot of sickle cell support groups globally. I mean, we have individual sickle cell support groups. We have national support groups in every country. Then we have the regional support groups. Aside the regional support groups too, we have the global support group, which is the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease organization that was established nearly 2 years ago. Now, it is important that if you want to champion and improve the lives of people living with sickle cell disease, we work as a group. So if you are in a country where there are sickle cell groups, like the national sickle cell group, the individual sickle cell group, regional sickle cell groups, you are supposed to go and collaborate with them. There are a lot of advocacy going on. And as we said, we are championing education, we are championing management of sickle cell disease, we are championing research, we are championing, first and foremost, advocacy. So it is important that wherever you find yourself, go and look for a sickle cell support group closer to you. Then also we come to the global one. Now, this global organization, the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease organization, is here to help unify all of us, give us one voice so that we can champion the cause of people living with sickle cell disease. It's not here to take over the work of any other support group. Is to bring all of us under one umbrella so that we can push for good policies, positive policies that can help improve the lives of people living with sickle cell disease. So for instance, in your second question, you said, how can we partner such that patients could benefit from material aids? Yes, when it comes to some parts of the world, the West, they have so many drugs, okay? The new and novel drugs that are coming in, they have it, which is great. But then there are other parts other parts like Sub-Saharan Africa that we don't have much. We have hydroxyurea, and even hydroxyurea is not so accessible. So that is why it is important that all the support groups come together under the global so that we can help push for good policies to ensure that whatever the West is getting, we are also getting it here. We are also improving the lives of people living with sickle cell disease. Thank you. The second question is, which country is doing bone marrow transplant successful or contacts of doctor? Dr. Alkini, do you have any?
Yes, let me take this opportunity to respond to this question. And I'll begin by saying this, and please, I want my sickle cell community, parents, the doctors, and anyone who is listening to take this. For you to do bone marrow transplant, first of all, you need a good infrastructure. And I want to challenge each of you in Africa to walk to your best hospitals. If you walk to the best hospitals, just ask, where is the cleanest room, like where they give chemotherapy? Chemotherapy is treatment of cancer. When you're treating cancer, you basically kill all the cells in the body when you're giving the treatment. And these patients are liable to infections. So before you do bone marrow transplant, you must give patient drugs or treatment that kills almost all the cells in the immune system. Then after that, you put in, you use the word infuse the cells that are good, that do not contain the sickle cells, so that the bone begins regenerating. Now, having said that, in Africa, maybe a place like South Africa is what I'll consider a more advanced country, where like Jumeirah, where someone can give very good chemotherapy treatment, then also at the same time, you also think about bone marrow transplant. For someone to be done bone marrow transplant, we need to match you with your sibling. And in Africa, I can proudly say that it is very, very easy to match you with siblings, because generally most of the siblings are same father, same mother, and therefore when you do bone marrow transplant, they're not going to get rejection. The second thing, if you are going to do bone marrow transplant, know that this patient will need to be hospitalized for a very long duration. And therefore, we must also have trained personnel who have experience to manage, okay? It's like buying some car somewhere and then you want to bring it in Kenya. If you don't have the technical expertise of people who can maintain it, I'm just giving that as an example, you will not. So you know very, very well that in Kenya, Africa, in Tanzania, you know the system. There are certain things that cannot be managed in that area. It's the same thing with bone marrow transplant. So if you ask me for countries, I'll recommend USA, because I know they have done this quite a number of times and they have very, very good outcome with their patients. UK, and the closest may be Israel. If you ask me about other African countries, I am not very, very sure of that, but maybe South Africa. And if someone is asking, some of our patients also go to India, but I cannot be like very, very sure with which institutions in India have got a good income, a good outcome. I particularly see so many of them coming. I call them medical tourism, but I'm very, very reserved on referring patients to a place where I don't know what kind of treatment they're giving, what is the outcome, do they have the supporting network after the patient has been done bone marrow transplant. And then for me right now, having seen treatment and understood the management of sickle cell disease, I had a great opportunity to be in the US, and this was I'd call Arcon Children Home. It's somewhere in Ohio. And I met a pediatrician oncologist who also deals with hematology. Actually, this is the head of hematology department. And I told her I was very enthusiastic, and I was telling her, please, can we have bone marrow transplant in Kenya? How can we do that? What are the requirements? You know, the senior lady sat me down for 10 minutes and told me, you know what? Management of complications of bone marrow transplant are far much more than you can imagine. You need, first of all, very well-trained staff. Even if they're not, they can be trained, but there's what we call commitment. You need that kind of a doctor that you can call 24 hours, anytime when the patient has complications and will be willing to go do assessment. So at the end of our conversation, I think I felt like I asked for too much that I wanted. And she told me, you know what, you can only get bone marrow done in your country if you've achieved a facility of this level. Then she took me around.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Yeah. So
thank you so
I
much.
think, yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you
Yeah,
so much. And also in Ghana, we have our Greater Accra Regional Hospital. They have a bone marrow facility there. So if anybody wants information, they can go there. This question goes to Arafa. Please, Arafa, kindly share the therapy with us. You mentioned of a therapy that has really enhanced and improved your, quality of life so much. So the audience wants to know which kind of therapy it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary, for this question. Actually, the therapy is hydroxyurea. I have been using hydroxyurea for a bit so long, 10 plus years, and it has shown the magic of it. So whoever is on hydroxyurea should be constant to it, and who is not on hydroxyurea should maybe ask about their physicians to start them on hydroxyurea. But also we hope that it's going to be very accessible and available all around Africa.
Thank you so much. So even in Ghana, they did the free implementation of hydroxyurea, and a lot of my patients who for the first time took hydroxyurea really expressed their enthusiasm and how it has improved on their quality of life. And I know that all these new novel therapies coming in is going to add to it. So we thank you so much for letting us know that taking medication helps to improve the quality of life of people living with sickle cell disease. The next question, why isn't pain management considered a main part of sickle cell disease care? I just hear of hydroxyurea, folic acid, vaccines, anti-malaria, and vaccines. Vaccines rarely is pain management addressed. Why? I think it's supposed to be brief. We are really behind time. Dr. Ikenyi, can you address this for us?
I want to address this and say that
briefly,
first of all,
briefly.
Yes, when you have proper management, and that's why I highlighted those drugs, you are not supposed to get frequent crises. Pain management are two types, somatic pain and what we call nociceptive pain. The pain that most sickle cell patients get is what we call nociceptive pain, because it's based on previous experience and it is more of like psychological. And when you give them these strong pain medications, they get complications. So that's why my priority, number one, please, pain management is part of sickle cell, but let it be when there's a complication. But when you adhere to your treatment protocols as adequately as required, you are not supposed to be having frequent pain crises. I'm very, very happy that Arafa is here, and I'll please ask her, how frequently does it take the pain medication? Because I have a wide variety of patients. My patients who are there to proper treatment rarely need pain medication. I only give them pain medication just in case they feel the pain. But the management of pain in sickle cell is not necessarily about drugs. There's psychological, some other ways of pain management, like maybe listening to music, trying to do something that distract your pain. I think Arafa maybe will just give a highlight if time allows. I'm glad that she's here as a patient, so that when I'm talking as a doctor, let them not nail me that you people are just talking because you want us to do this and this, but we are the one who knows better. I personally try as much as possible to avoid prescribing pain medication. I encourage patients to take their medication and let pain be taken only pain med, because when the more painkillers you take, you are not treating the root cause of the problem. The root cause of pain is actually vasocclusion. So you need to find ways of dealing with that first, so that you don't just give pain. It's like kitu na mafuta. I think they'll understand. Just smearing or cleaning a table, but not really using the soap to remove the problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Inike. I think we'll take one last question, so that because we are far behind time. Do we have data on the new drug that we have just released in the UK? Do we have data on the new drug that they have just released in the UK? Dr. Kenny, do you have an idea?
I've just seen it. The name is I just saw it in the article, just like maybe the rest of us. But so far, we need to find out what are the outcomes, what is the clinical trials, how it is. So, you know, the people who generated the drug will first of all do their trials and give us much data about it. And they also, we can only get to know data if you are involved with the clinical trials. So maybe we can only develop data if many of you will be volunteering, and if you get in contact with those companies, to include them as part of, so that if you accept to be part of this work, then probably it will also trickle down to us. Because remember, sickle cell is a genetic disease, and there's a lot of genetic variations of even using the drugs. I'll be very, very happy to get data that is being generated from Africa. So if we could get them, we'll be very, very happy to be part of their trials, so that our data is very clear, comparative, and close to the patients we have in Africa compared to the UK. Remember, I'm saying this because sickle cell is a genetic disease, that each drug, the way it interacts with the body, also has a genetic component. So far, we don't have data for Africa. Thank you.
No, but I want to say if it's really a new drug, because if they are talking about presenlenzimab, it's still here with us. I think the new thing is that the National Health Service of England is making it free for the people living with sickle cell disease in the UK. But then this drug is already here with us. It has been approved since 2019, and in Ghana we have an ongoing clinical trials in Ghana at Kolebu to really look at it and its impact on people living with sickle cell disease. So this drug is already here with us, and there are a lot of clinical trials going on, even in our sub-region. So if there's anybody who wants to participate in it, you can go and participate and see how it can impact on you, so that you can also serve as an ambassador to that. To this particular drug that we have. Thank you so much, Doc. I think we have to go now. We have to end the section now, and I want to use this opportunity to thank everybody who participated in this live streaming of S is for sickle cell disease. I want to thank Novartis so much for making this happen. And really, Novartis is really helping to improve the lives of people living with sickle cell disease. And I also want to thank my organization, the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease organization, for partnering with Novartis for making sure that this program it was or is successful. Thank you so much. And we know that more organizations, especially in our sub-region, will join GASTO to make sure that we'll have a unified voice and push for more important things that people living with sickle cell disease needs. Then also, I want to thank you, our viewers who participated. Thank you so much for making time to participate in this so important program in this sub-region. Thank you so much. I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank Dr. Ikenyi for making time to be with us and explaining all the pathophysiology and everything. Thank you so much, Doc. We really appreciate it. I also want to thank Arafa Salim, my very good friend who I met in Tanzania some years back. Thank you so much for really giving us your lived experiences about living with sickle cell disease. And I know that all of us who are living with sickle cell disease will identify with you and know that drugs help in the management of sickle cell disease in order to reduce even the stigma and the myth surrounding sickle cell disease. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. You should also, we would post this video on our social media platform. Go and look for Novartis Facebook page. We will post this video on it very soon. And also, this is just, S is for sickle cell disease. It's just the first session of the series of webinars that we are going to have. So on the 6th of November, look forward to the next one, which is S is for screening. And today, a lot of people ask questions about screening, but this session is not really focused on screening. We are going to answer it well on the 6th of November. So join us again, same time. Look out for look out for the promotion of this S is for screening, and come and really educate yourself and know where all these screenings are being done and how we can help advocate for screening, national screening in all countries. Thank you so much. All of you have made this program so impactful and successful. See you again on the 6th of November. Don't forget, on the 6th of November. Thank you so much. Bye.